You like the Guardians system? You wrote them up.
I do like the Guardians. I feel like I'm always higher on the Guardians, which maybe you could say, oh, you wrote them. Of course, you're higher, but that's not true of the Braves every year. So I just think the Guardian system is quite deep. And a lot of the reason why I like the Guardian system is because of the players who are 11 to 30. I just think that's not the only reason, but I think what is a separator for Cleveland this year, and really I thought similarly a year ago too, is they have a depth of talent that is unusual to see. I feel like I just feel like they do a good job acquiring talent from a variety of different areas. Their drafts have been solid. Their international returns are extremely consistent. Like maybe that's the biggest separator for them compared to other teams in the 11 to 30 range, is that there are just a lot of prospects in that range that are exciting now and I think have tools and have like hitting ability. And what else is maybe new for the Guardians? Maybe it's been kind of a few years coming, is they have a variety of offensive profiles that is more exciting than maybe they did 5 years ago. I feel like for a while Cleveland was just targeting these smaller left-handed hitting, compact, great pure hitting types, but they just had no power. And you kind of see how that's impacted their big league team. Well, they've had, whether because of like just picking higher in the draft or because of shifting their philosophy. And I think this past year, you maybe get the biggest sense that that's the case. Taking guys like Jace Laviolette and Nolan Schubart, they're just huge slugging, physical left-handed types. So I think there's a really intriguing blend of pure hitting ability, power, proximity, and then players further away. Like I just think it's a really well-rounded farm system. They maybe don't have the sort of headliner that you would want to see, or the volume of top 100 prospects to push you into the top 5 range. But after that, I mean, I think it's definitely a top 10 system just for sheer like volume of quality players.
Where are you at on? I mean, I imagine still pretty high because he's number one in the farm system. But Travis Bazzana, I mean, he had an oblique injury in
Mhm.
2025. How much was that a factor in hampering him or holding back from performing at his best? Would you maybe the season he had?
Yeah, it wasn't the season you're probably looking for. I do think that injury impacted the numbers that we're seeing, particularly in the first half of the year. It felt like he maybe got out of sync a little bit with his mechanics, and it sounds like the injury was part of the reason why. It also seems like too, Bazana really just hadn't been exposed to the sort of quality left-handed pitching that he sees now in pro ball, and so
Hmm.
he was a bit more passive than he needed to be in the first half of the season against lefties who are now like throwing secondaries in the zone with more frequency than what he saw at Oregon State. That in particular seemed to be kind of an adjustment that he needed to make, and I think he did make that in the second half of the season. I would maybe be a little bit more skeptical with Bazana if all the underlying batted ball data had backed up as well. Like his line isn't super sexy, but I think everything that he did really well in college, and the reason that he was the first overall pick is still present in his game. He still makes a ton of contact. In the second half of the season, he was hitting the ball to the pull side with a lot more intent and getting the ball in the air. He still did that at a really high level. I think he's still much more of a hit over defensive profile. Like I think he'll be fine at second base. And I also think that hopefully with health, the speed is going to be there for him to run. So he's pretty, I view him pretty similar now as I did a year ago. I'm just hopeful that he stays healthy. And I think that is one thing that maybe the Guardians saw this year is there are a lot of players who dealt with injuries and shoulder injuries in particular. They've got a little bit of the D-backs fever here in the system.
Seeing the way that JJ Weatherholt performed with the Cardinals this year, and then I obviously even more so the way Nick Kurtz hit in the major
Hmm.
leagues this year with the A's at different points in time. We had, Weatherholtz, we had Kurtz, we had Bazzana
Yeah.
atop our draft rankings for that year. Do you think the Guardians made the right call with Bazzana? I mean, is he still as highly regarded now compared to where he was going into that draft?
I don't think so. I think it has to have fallen. His stock has to have fallen a little bit. I don't think it's drastic, but I also think both Kurtz and JJ Weatherholt they've gone in the opposite direction. Weatherholt has been every bit the hitter we expected him to be. The defense has maybe looked better than we thought. Like, part of the reason I prefer JJ Weatherholt in that draft to Bazzana is, like, I thought there was just a greater chance of his ability to play shortstop at the next level. I don't think there's any chance that Travis Bazzana does that, and so I think there is some positional component here that's different. It's hard to knock what Nick Kurtz is doing, although, again, like, there is just a higher level that you need to clear as a hitter at first base. So I think all these players could net out around similar values in the long run, but it's kind of funny we don't have the same injury questions right now with Weatherholt as we do with Bazzana, which is maybe the opposite of what we'd expected given their amateur backgrounds. But I think they're on our 100, they're probably going to be separated by more players than I think really speaks to the talent gap. But I think there are good reasons for that, if that makes sense.
All right. Well, speaking of injuries, let's go to number 2.
Yeah, Chase DeLauter. I feel like if he was healthy, he would be the number 1 prospect in the system pretty easily. He made his debut in the postseason. I think he's got a chance to really answer some of the power questions that the Guardians have had for a few years. He is a extremely well-rounded offensive player. He hits the ball exceptionally hard. I think in this division, again, I pulled the 27 hitters I have data for. He's top 3 in 90th percentile exit velocity and overall miss rate and overall chase rate. He's always been the sort of hitter when he's been on the field, dating back to his time in college at James Madison. He just hits the ball hard. He makes a ton of contact. He doesn't expand the zone. It's really always been like that. It's just he's constantly injured. He can't stay on the field. I think the upside of the defensive side of his game has kind of decreased over the past few years. Part of that is just like the nagging injuries themselves have caused the Guardians to play him in a corner when he is healthy because they don't want to like create opportunities for him to get injured again. So I'm unsure of like what he's going to look like as a defender in the long run. I mean, he still moves well underway, but it sounds more like it's a definite corner profile than early on in his career where you're like, oh, maybe he's one of these outlier, really physical guys who just moves around well enough to play center. But this is still a guy who looks like if he can stay on the field for a full season, which is a tremendous question mark, it's potential 30 plus home run sort of power.
Yeah, I agree that he has the type of power that will allow him to hit 30 plus home runs. I just don't know that he's ever going to stay on the field long enough to allow him to hit 30 home runs. I mean, I love Chase DeLauter too, but I feel like the Guardians have this Ferrari that when you get it on the road, it's incredible. And then it's just always broken down. It's always in the shop with some issue. First season out, he played 57 games, then 39 games, and 42 games each of his minor league seasons. He played 24 games his draft year because of the injury questions. I badly want him to stay healthy.
Yeah.
Because I love the hitting ability and the power and all the other things. He just does so many things that you love to see in a hitter. It's just hard to figure that he's going to consistently or just consistently stay healthy for 100 plus games in a year, which
it's
is
to the point
unfortunate.
where I almost wonder if like he should just be put in the DH spot and because I think his offensive upside warrants that. I think Cleveland has a number of other players that are capable of being assets defensively. It's not like they would be pushing some older player out of that spot who's integral to their lineup and like they just need more thump. Chase DeLauter is ready to do that. And if DH is going to help him stay in the lineup more frequently, I almost think it would be worth it now. Although obviously it'd be ideal if he could find a way to stay healthy and play right field every day. The other interesting thing too is with like Cleveland's defensive composition, like you would almost look at the outfielders they have and say, hey, why can't Stephen Kwan go play center field? I mean, he has the skill set and looks like a more typical center fielder. And then you could be like, oh, Chase DeLauter play left field, a little bit more low stakes, but it's hard to like say, oh, take the 4 consecutive Gold Glove left fielder who's been one of the best defenders in the game and move him off position for the guy that's hurt and not nearly as good in a corner. So it's just kind of a weird outfield composition they have right now.
Yeah. What else jumps out to you when you wrote up this system about these players?
Well, let's skip on down to some of the pitchers because I think Braylon Doughty, the more I got
Yeah.
into his profile and looked at his season, I mean, he's been every bit the pitcher that the Guardians hoped he would be. I mean, they were super bullish on his starter traits, the command that he had, his athleticism. Um, we had always written pretty positively about his capacity to spin a breaking ball when he got drafted, like the way the Guardians talked about his spin was pretty unbelievable. And then he lived up to that in his first pro year. 3.48 ERA over 22 starts, 85.1 innings, 27.3% strikeout rate, 6.4% walk rate. He attacks the zone with his fastball. He's been up to 97. He's got both a four seam and a two seamer. He threw both those pitches for strikes more than 70% of the time. His curveball looks like a potential 70 grade offering, and it was mostly focused on fastball breaking ball. I could easily see him going towards this like pitch shaped monster route in the future when they just allow him to expand the arsenal. I feel like he could wind up having a sweeper in the future that's a strong pitch just because he's so good at manipulating the baseball. I Right now he's mostly throwing fastball, curveball, changeup. It would not shock me at all if he wound up with like three legitimately different shape breaking balls and was like peppering all these in the zone at a high clip. Like I have Cam Caminiti at the top of the Braves system. I like Braylon Doughty every bit as much as Caminiti, and he's 7th on this list or 6th. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about him.
Yeah, I really like him. I like the delivery, compact arm action, extension is good, a lot of strikes, the ride to the fastball. Like you said, he can rip your face off with that nasty curveball. 3,000 plus RPM. It's got power too. Like it's not just one of those slower, bigger, loopier curveballs. It's a power hammer curveball. I love it. And it does look like he has feel for a changeup. You're right. He's not really throwing it much yet.
Mm-hmm.
And the fastball curveball combination is just so good. But I
Yeah.
see a guy who has the capacity for 3, or maybe, like you said, maybe he ends up with more
Yeah.
pitches, and a true wipeout pitch with that breaking ball. I mean, do you think he's
Yeah.
a top 100 guy? I do.
I would have him as a top 100 guy right now. I would have him in the once we get to 60 on the board, there's probably not going to be a lot of pitchers that I really like over him. I think he fits comfortably in the 60 to 90 range on the board right now. I mean, you could argue that he's the best pitching prospect in the system. I have Parker Messick in front of him. I think it's really a proximity versus upside conversation with those two. Like Parker Messick, we saw him pitch in the majors. He was excellent for them down the stretch, really crucial to them getting into the postseason as the Tigers kind of had their late season collapse. I mean, Parker Messick largely is the pitcher that he was in college. It's kind of odd angles, deception, above average control, really strong changeup, mixing and matching. I think he did add a little bit to the secondary. It's like Parker Messick is a right now number 4, number 5 type starter, whereas Braylon Doughty I feel like has just a little bit more upside. Maybe he can be a number 2, number 3 type pitcher if he continues to add power to the fastball and kind of maintains the sort of quality strikes that he's shown this year. I think it's just a tremendous first season for a player of his background and profile. Like all the reasons you liked him, if you liked him coming out of the draft, you only like him more now. So I'm really curious to see what his pitch mix looks like next year.
What separates Braylon Doughty from another high school pitcher they took that year in 2024 with Joey Oakie? Because
Mm-hmm.
Oakie, I liked him a lot in high school. He just had a lot of wiggle to everything
Yeah.
that he threw, and the way his fastball ran, the tilt on his slider, super low slot guy. And that was when he was, scraping the mid 90s in high school, and now he's
Mm-hmm.
sitting at 95 and touching 100 miles an hour. He just turned 19 years old during the season. Obviously, it seems like the main thing is the strikes are just not as good.
Yeah, I think that is the main thing. I mean, I liked Oakie more than Doughty coming out of that draft just because the power and the movement on his fastball breaking ball combination was so explosive, and it was just this physical athlete. I mean, he walked 14% of the batters he faced, and it was a 5.31 ERA in 59 innings at Low A Lynchburg. So just like the surface level numbers, there's quite a bit of a difference. I do think Joey has maybe one of the better fastballs, one of the better sliders in this system. So if you're just looking at like 2 pitches, Oakie probably tops Doughty right now. It's just the command, the pitchability, the starter. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that Braylon Doughty is a starter, and Joey, I think, still needs to make some pretty significant strides just in terms of repeating his delivery and throwing quality strikes with his mix to just maintain the starter profile. I think his season was probably better from a developmental perspective in reality than maybe it looks if you're just looking at the numbers, because not only does he throw the fastball extremely hard on average, but he actually added more velocity in the second half of the season and held his stuff better in the second half of the season and got stronger throughout the season, which is all really encouraging. I think for him, it's just his mechanics. He does not repeat consistently all the time, and that impacts the quality of his strikes. And so those are the areas that he needs to improve. Like Doughty, he is a really advanced natural athlete. And so I think there is some optimism that he can make the adjustments necessary. It's just he's a lot further along in the strike throwing department. I don't think the changeup for him is maybe quite as exciting as what Doughty already has, but for both of them, it's kind of a fastball breaking ball heavy mix at the moment. So maybe just a wider range of outcomes with Oakie on both sides. Like if the command comes in a big way, maybe he's sitting there in front of Doughty a year from now. I would be surprised, but the stuff warrants that.
Seeing Cooper Ingle at the back of this top 10 feel like is a good sign for the depth of the top 10 plus players in this system. I feel like Cooper Ingle just keeps quietly performing. Like, I know he slowed down at AAA and he hit great in AA, continues to put up high OBPs. He walked more than he struck out overall this year. Does he hit for enough power? Is the defense good enough to carry him as an everyday catcher? Like, what's holding him back from being talked about in the group of, say, top 10 catching prospects in baseball?
Yeah, I'm trying to think through who the top 10 definitely are. He definitely does not have the sort of upside or power potential. I mean, you mentioned it. The questions with him are power and defensive ability. I think it was maybe a little bit disappointing for him this season because I imagine both he and the Guardians were hoping that the defense would just be a little bit better. It sounds like he was a little bit skittish behind the plate after getting hit in an area you don't want to get hit early on in the season. And so the blocking didn't take a step forward. And he's never been the best thrower in the world. He's always had to kind of have the arm play up a little bit. Needs a good exchange to have the arm be serviceable. And so, like, he maybe plateaued defensively this year or maybe even regressed a little bit. So that's a question. Like, if you don't have the defensive ability of like a Jacob Cozart, who we have a little bit further down in the system, maybe you're not pushing someone like Bo Naylor off the position, because Naylor certainly has more power than Ingle does. I mean, Cooper Ingle's strengths are he does not expand the zone. He makes a lot of contact, and he's one of these hitters who just has the sort of angles off the barrel that allows him to have a lot of success. It's a ton of line drives. It's a lot of contact. He understands his zone. So he's a very advanced pure hitter. It's just like there's nothing else really sexy about the profile. Yeah, if he was like an above average defender, I think you'd probably hear his name a little bit more often. And I don't think we've been talking for years now about like, oh, is there a little bit more power to be found? He's just a smaller guy who doesn't have a ton of impact potential, and I would be surprised for him to be much more than like 15 or so homers a year. But still a very good prospect at the upper levels of the minors. So definitely has a role to play. And I do think too for Cleveland, like we had Joey Oakie just off this list at 12. We haven't talked about Juniker Caceres at 11. Like both these guys, I think you could have argued are legitimate top 10 prospects if you like Juniker's maybe power potential more than a Jason Churio, who's inside the back of the 10 and regressed a little bit this year, dealt with some injuries too. I mean, that would make sense to me. I just think it doesn't really fall off in this range. So a lot of good players.
Yeah, I like him. He was Juniker Caceres. I mean, he was ultra young for that international signing class, August 15th birthday. So, if he's born, 3 weeks later, he's not eligible to sign until this year. So he's probably in the Dominican Summer League all year this year. Instead, 2024 signing from Venezuela crushes the DSL, comes over to the States this year, rakes in the ACL, more walks and strikeouts, gets promoted to the last or for the last month of the season up to low A, and he's 17 years old, which is basically the same age as a 2026 high school player or maybe a very young 2025. I mean, left-handed outfielder, not very big, like very much Guardian-sized player, like 5'10" on a tall day, but just great barrel accuracy, and he hits the ball with some surprising impact for a guy who was a smaller guy.
Yeah, and I think he's probably a corner outfielder, but I also think he's
Yeah.
probably going to have enough hit and power to profile perfectly fine there. So that doesn't really bother me too much. And that 24 class they also got a few players further down in the back of this list who are still interesting. Gabriel Rodriguez and Doughty Fernandez, both shortstops. I think both those guys were actually more prominent when they signed than Janiker. Certainly maybe Gabriel was, but I mean, they have a lot further to go in terms of offense, but Gabriel is this really advanced defender, and Doughty Fernandez has shown some exciting twitch and physicality and bat speed that I think even if he moves off shortstop, which I just imagine with the quality of shortstops they have ahead of him is probably likely, he's still a pretty exciting prospect too. So
Yeah, I really like the way Gabriel Rodriguez moves offensively and defensively. Gonna have to get a lot stronger, but the actions and the game IQ and instincts are a good foundation to build on.
yeah.